Of the world's 14 peaks above 8,000 meters, we often hear names like Everest, K2, and Annapurna. But standing alone on the western edge of the Himalayas, there's another peak whose name evokes both fear and reverence among even the most seasoned climbers. This is Nanga Parbat, the Naked Mountain. Locals call it Diyama, the King of the Mountains. Yet due to its tragic legacy, it's often known by a far more chilling title, the Killer Mountain. Standing at a staggering 8,126 meters, Nanga Parbat is the 9th highest mountain in the world. However, in terms of climbing difficulty, it's often ranked among the top 5 or even top 3. Its unique characteristics have earned it a reputation as one of the hardest and most dangerous summits to conquer. Located in the Gilgit-Baltistan region of Pakistan, Nanga Parbat is the westernmost major peak of the Himalayas. It stands alone, separated from the main Himalayan range by the mighty Indus River. This isolation contributes to its fearsome reputation and unique climbing challenges. So what makes Nanga Parbat so deadly? Let's break it down. Firstly, Nanga Parbat is surrounded by several massive glaciers, including the Raikot, Diamir, and Bajin glaciers, which add an early layer of danger to any summit attempts. These glaciers are constantly shifting, creating unstable conditions with crevasses and icefalls that pose significant risks to climbers. The movement of these glaciers also increases the likelihood of avalanches, particularly on the lower slopes, complicating the already treacherous ascent and forcing climbers to navigate unpredictable terrain before even reaching the more technical sections of the mountain. Next is its extremely unpredictable weather. Nanga Parbat creates an especially dangerous microclimate due to its unique location at the convergence of different weather systems. Nanga Parbat's unique location at the westernmost edge of the Himalayas exposes it to both monsoon weather from the south and cold air masses from Central Asia, making its conditions more volatile than other Himalayan peaks. While most high-altitude mountains experience sudden storms and temperature drops, Nanga Parbat's exposure to both monsoon weather and colder air masses makes its conditions more extreme and unpredictable. Sudden snowstorms, avalanches, and temperatures plummeting to minus 40 degrees Celsius are common, particularly on the steep Rupal face, adding to the high risk of avalanches and making this peak notoriously difficult and dangerous for climbers. Nanga Parbat also presents an immense technical challenge for climbers due to its varied and treacherous terrain. All routes to the summit involve navigating through dangerous ice fields where crevasses and unstable ice formations create constant hazards. Climbers then face near vertical rock faces, particularly on the Rupal face, where steep rock walls demand expert technical climbing skills. These sections are exposed to frequent rockfall and avalanches, further adding to the risk. The final approach often involves crossing knife-edge ridges, narrow and exposed paths where one misstep could be fatal. These ridges are difficult to traverse, especially in high winds and low visibility, testing a climber's endurance and precision to the limit. The combination of ice, rock and ridges makes Nanga Parbat one of the most technically demanding climbs in the world, requiring not only physical skill, but also a high tolerance for risk. Finally, on its south side, Nanga Parbat presents the infamous Rupal face. At 4,600 meters, it's the highest mountain face in the world. Imagine climbing a sheer, icy wall, nearly 2 times the height of the Burj Khalifa. Climbers who attempt this route are faced with nearly vertical rock, fragile ice formations, and extreme exposure to avalanches and rockfall, making it one of the most technically difficult and mentally exhausting challenges in all of mountaineering. Successfully ascending the Rupal face is considered one of the greatest achievements in the climbing world, pushing even the most seasoned mountaineers to their absolute limits. The history of Nanga Parbat is as dramatic as its landscape. The first recorded attempt to climb the mountain was in 1895 by British mountaineer Albert F. Mummery. Tragically, this pioneering expedition ended in disaster, with Mummery and 2 Gurkha companions disappearing on the mountain, never to be seen again. This tragic start set the tone for decades to come. Between 1895 and 1950, 31 climbers lost their lives attempting to conquer Nanga Parbat. giving birth to its chilling nickname, the Killer Mountain. It wasn't until July 3rd, 1953, that Nanga Parbat finally allowed a human to stand on its summit. The honour went to Austrian climber Hermann Buhl, in what is considered one of the greatest feats in mountaineering history. Buhl's ascent was an epic feat of endurance and determination. After his team turned back, he continued alone, without oxygen, for an incredible 41 hours. He was forced to spend a night standing on a tiny ledge, fighting hallucinations and frostbite. Against all odds, Buhl made it to the summit and back alive. Let's take a look at some of the most notable events in Nanga Parbat's climbing history. In 1934, a German-American expedition ends in disaster, with 9 climbers and 6 porters killed in an avalanche. In 1970, the legendary Reinhold Messner loses his brother Gunther on the Ruppel face after a successful summit. In 1978, the first ascent of the Ruppel face is achieved by Reinhold Messner and Peter Haberle. In 2005, Steve House and Vince Anderson complete a groundbreaking alpine-style ascent of the Ruppel face. And in 2016, the first winter ascent is finally achieved by a team led by Simone Moro, after over 30 failed attempts. While the physical threats are obvious, one of the most daunting and deadly aspects of a Nanga Parbat ascent is dealing with the thin air as climbers ascend to higher altitudes. As they approach the summit, the air contains only a third of the oxygen available at sea level. This makes the risk of altitude sickness incredibly high and demands a meticulous acclimatization strategy. Climbers typically employ the climb high, sleep low method, where they ascend to a higher altitude, setting gear along the way during the day, but descend to a lower elevation to sleep. This helps the body gradually adjust to the reduced oxygen levels by producing more red blood cells, a process that can take weeks. The use of high-altitude camps is essential, with climbers establishing multiple camps along the route, each higher than the last, to give their bodies time to adjust before pushing for the summit. In some cases, climbers also rely on supplemental oxygen when reaching the most extreme altitudes, particularly above 8,000 metres, known as the death zone, where the human body cannot acclimatise effectively, and every hour spent there increases the risk of severe health issues. All of this requires extreme patience and planning, with summits often delayed or abandoned due to weather, and the need to allow for proper acclimatisation. The slow, deliberate ascent is as much a test of mental endurance as physical, as pushing too quickly can lead to altitude sickness, edema, or even fatal outcomes. This intricate balance between climbing progress and acclimatisation is what makes the summit attempt so gruelling and dangerous.